Good evening. It's 6 o'clock on Wednesday, June 22nd, 2016. Welcome and thank you for joining us tonight for the English edition of ORAN News, where we bring you today's top stories translated into English every weeknight. The Democratic Party parliamentary group held a meeting today to discuss the stance on the judicial reform. ORAN News has learned that the Democratic Party chairman confirmed with the DP MPs that the opposition has not negotiated with the majority regarding the judicial reform since last Friday. According to the DP chairman, the majority is acting unilaterally with the draft of the reform. At the end of their closed-door meeting, Mr. Basha declared that efforts to include the reform draft onto Parliament's agenda without first reaching an agreement with the opposition means postponing the reform by a year and will bring political destabilization. During the parliamentary group meeting, the DP chairman has asked the MPs to be unified and has expressed his conviction that the Prime Minister does not have the necessary numbers to vote unilaterally on the judicial reform. Furthermore, the DP chairman told the DP MPs that he had been assured by the allied parties of the majority that they will not vote on a draft that provides control over the justice system. The Democratic Party chairman reiterated that respecting the Venice Commission's recommendation 88 is the only way the judicial reform can be adopted and guarantee an independent justice system. He issued this statement to the majority MPs. I want to call the majority MPs not to be politically swayed by Edi Rama, who is afraid of an independent justice system. The Democratic Party has made all efforts to have a justice system that does not need in the defense of crime, the system that serves the citizens. The reform will not be realized using Edi Rama's draft. If the reform is to be realized, it must be made according to the Venice Commission, said Basha. The DP chairman added that the recent acts, the Prime Minister is showing that he is the enemy of an independent justice system. The Ad Hoc Commission of Justice Reform gathered today. The opposition boycotted the meeting, and the majority members adopted almost all of the articles on the Constitutional Court bill. However, it was not adopted entirely, leaving the opportunity to make changes open if asked for by the opposition. At the end of the meeting, the chairman of the Ad Hoc Commission declared that 3 to 4 articles of the bill will be finalized on Friday. We reviewed the Constitutional Court bill article by article. There were several discussions on some points. We managed to approve all the articles except 3 or 4, over which the experts' opinions will be sought. They are articles related to the Constitutional Court's decision-making. We will review the remaining articles on Friday. We adopted the bill in principle. We will leave the necessary time for the provisions that need to be discussed, said the chairman of the Ad Hoc Commission. When asked about the DP's claim that the Ad Hoc Commission's discussion has no value if the work for the draft is not concluded yet, and about the DP's threatening its MPs with the removal of their mandates, the chairman of the Ad Hoc Commission had this to say. Temperatures have increased a lot recently, and for this reason we are hearing such things. I think this is an effect of high temperatures. During a meeting for the EU funds, the Minister of Agriculture asked the European Union to soften the standards for distributing funds to Albanian farmers, as many of them have been disqualified. The minister said that the rules for the application to accept EU funds should be simplified. The process should be easily accessible. The measures that prevent abuses with the EU funds should not complicate the process. They should be simple. We should be prudent because there have been cases when a farmer has been disqualified because of a small error. You should be careful with the classification of irregularities related to abuses and other irregularities in order not to become an exclusionary element, said the Minister of Agriculture. However, the EU ambassador sees the strong standards as necessary to prevent abuses. Transparent use of public money is one of the main tasks. Albania is currently at an important stage in terms of support for agriculture. We encourage the Albanian farmers to become an active part and a benefit from the allocated funds. Efforts should be made to ensure access to the funds provided for the Albanian farmers for the period of 2016 to 2020. Also, at the same time, maximum efforts are needed to prevent irregularities and abuses with agricultural funds, said Ambassador Vlahutin. Meanwhile, Germany's vice ambassador pointed out the high level of corruption in Albania, adding that the judicial reform is needed. The risk of corruption when dealing with large funds is very high. Corruption is very high in many countries, but in Albania it is like a cancer, with high numbers of metastases across the country. The judicial reform is very important for the fight against corruption, she said. Albania's agriculture sector employs approximately 50% of the labor force and accounts for about 20% of the country's GDP. For the period between 2016 and 2020, the European Union and the Albanian government will co-finance €91 million through the IPARD program to improve agricultural competitiveness, agro-processing sectors, and rural development. The Minister of Finance, after a government meeting, stated that the government has facilitated the procedures of the VAT reimbursement for exporting companies and decided that companies which export 50% of their goods will also be reimbursed within 30 days. About 1,050 exporting companies will benefit from the VAT reimbursement. The government has also amended the procedures, including automatic reimbursement for companies that export 50% of their goods, as well as businesses that export entirely. According to the Minister of Finance, this change, which is part of the package to facilitate administrative procedures, opens a new phase between the government and business. One of the business procedures has fundamentally changed. To this point, there has been an automatic VAT reimbursement within 30 days, only for businesses exporting 100% of their goods. With the new change, we are removing a barrier for enterprises that export 50% of their goods, who will now also benefit from VAT reimbursement. So far, 300 companies have been benefiting from the automatic 30-day VAT reimbursement. After today, with the government's change, 1,050 businesses, or 40% of total exporters, will benefit from VAT reimbursement, said the Minister of Finance. Due to the lengthy procedures, failure to reimburse the VAT in time was one of the earliest business problems. Though the process has improved in recent years, not implementing the plan is another reason businesses were not reimbursed in time, which has caused an absence of liquidity to businesses. According to the Ministry of Finance data, the tax directory has reimbursed about 3 billion lek to businesses since May. According to DP, the Democratic Party will sue the Ministry of Interior for impeding the execution of the decriminalization law. The Democrats claim that the ministry has not given complete and correct information for 130 public officials. Last month, the Democratic Party made a public list accusing 130 public officials of having a problematic past. The DP asked for information from the Ministry of Interior, but the Democratic MP, Jens Polo, declared that the Ministry of Interior has only responded on 21 officials. The Democrats resubmitted their request for the information to the ministry, warning that they would file a lawsuit against the ministry if it was not provided. The Democrats made the warning at the Inquiry Commission meeting for public administration appointments. Present at the commission, the Socialist members asked for a project the commission's work should be based on. The Democrats insist on the information from the Ministry of Interior and add that the incomplete information from the ministry proves the opposition's accusations that incriminated people have been appointed to the public administration. The DP members are backing their claim by stating that a high number of public administration employees have resigned since January and have been reappointed to other offices in order to escape the decriminalization check. The Prime Minister, Tirana's mayor, and the Minister of Culture inspected the construction work for the National Arena at the Kemal Stafa Stadium, one of the most strategic sports projects of the government. Considered as one of the most beautiful stadiums in Europe, the Prime Minister responded to all those who are skeptical about the project. It will be one of the most beautiful stadiums in Europe. The stadium is a response to those who make accusations, said the Prime Minister. The Minister of Culture declared that the National Arena will preserve the front of the existing stadium, which has been declared a cultural monument. Meanwhile, the Mayor of Tirana declared that 4 public spaces will be used for parking and will benefit from the project. Most of the work to demolish the objects surrounding the stadium has been made. The National Arena is predicted to hold 22,500 fans, and the work is expected to finish within 24 months. That's all for our English edition this evening. Please join us again Monday through Saturday at 6 p.m. for your local news in English. My name is Mari, and on behalf of ORA News, thank you and good night.